So the Audrey Hale shooting is back in the news this week. A long time no see, by the way, for all the wrong reasons, of course. And it's truly disturbing and disgusting what has become of my country. That the entire narrative about this new release of part of the manifesto of this shooter who killed several children and two adults in a hate crime against a Christian children's school. That the real victim is the shooter in the demographic the shooter represents, right? Of course, which is trans people. There was a lot of confusion, of course, coming out about the shooter because almost everybody expected it to be yet another, which would be the fourth in 2 years. Everyone thought it was going to be the fourth MTF transgender shooter, but no, this was an FDM, which baffled a lot of people. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is the fact that the entire manifesto, not just 3 pages of this manifesto, was, and this is unconfirmed, okay? The big freak out about this particular release by Steven Crowder was that this is confirmed to be writings of the shooter. I was on 4chan the day of the shooting, and I saw a lot more than that released. And unfortunately, none of it could be corroborated. A lot of it got Janny swept under the rug. But the handwriting matches, I'll give you at least that. So I'm going to be telling you that this is not confirmed fact when I'm reporting to you. But was there anti-Christian writings by Audrey Hale as well as anti-white is what the big freak out is here, is that this shooter, who was white themselves, by the way, was of course calling the victims crackers. That the stuff that was confirmed release said that they hoped they had the high death count and that their target was the young children of the school, which is horrifying. But the stuff I did see, and I do think is genuine, even though, again, unconfirmed, and has been largely swept under the rug, expressed a lot of anti-Christian hatred. Now, everybody wants this to be labeled a hate crime, and it's not going to be. And I'll tell you why. And there's a reason why we should stop. And even though I don't really consider myself right wing in the conservative mode of the United States, because I think conservatism is a fucking cowardly waste of time. As far as the mainstream Republican messaging of it, that it's just controlled opposition, that it's just the rear guard for the leftist wave in this country, and that they're not going to really achieve anything. And part of that is because they constantly argue on the terms of far leftist progressives and dudes and subverters and people trying to destroy this country. So what a hate crime is just, hey, if a white person does it to a minority, it's worse than just what we normally charge and sentence people to. And so that you should have worse sentencing, you should have more media scrutiny, you should be considered more vile because you're a white person targeting a minority. And it will never, ever be used in the reverse. The guy who ran over a bunch of people in Kenosha and killed a bunch of white children and was explicitly racist and was explicitly targeting white people for the purpose of just their race and nothing else. Hate crime? Nope. None of these mass shooters of the black variety who targeted whites or cops was ever convicted of a hate crime. It doesn't happen. It's bullshit. It is part of the apparatus to destroy, to target, and to humiliate and subjugate white people. Therefore, you should never be advocating on these people's terms. I don't want to hear shit about this was a hate crime, even though it was, because the fact that hate crime legislation exists at all is a weapon against you as a person, and it should be abolished because it is a direct violation of the 14th Amendment, the 11th Amendment, equal treatment under the law, that nobody's treated differently than each other, which of course has always been a joke in this country, but has usually been a matter of class, and still is. But now it's a matter of race. You will not be charged or treated the same way because of your race. And you will not be sentenced the same way. And of course, due to other demographics, including your race, you will be protected by the media. Now, part of the big news of this is how heavily the Nashville mayor is seeking to target people who have released this manifesto and demanded transparency into the investigation of this crime that did result in the death of the shooter, as well as six. It was six people. I think I might have said eight. I meant six, but at least four of those victims were young children under the age of 12. So there's been protests in Nashville where people are holding up seven fingers, meaning that Audrey Hale, the mass shooter who expressly targeted young children, young white Christian children, as her targets, and that she wanted to kill as many children as possible, that was another victim because of anti-trans legislation. Well, I can't say as much as I want to about the anti-trans legislation issue or whatever in this country, because the rare times that I get my video struck down, and some of the rare occasions that I get my comments censored, have to do with this very protected demographic. This demographic that has a problem with child pornography, child abuse, child rape. The amount of times a transgender activist has to back up due to allegations of sexual abuse, misconduct, and even amongst the trans community is constantly attacking each other due to, if a trans person supports anything other than a far leftist dude ideology, they either are targeted for that, or if they bicker amongst themselves and Discord gay ops and whatnot, that very frequently they cancel each other. One of the most famous trans activists, Keffels, who was scheduled to be in a discussion with White House officials in the White House amongst other far leftists like Destiny, who for some reason constantly gets cut slack by conservatives, and as well as vaunted pedophile and zoophile, and very rich dude, champagne socialist, Vosh. And Keffels was supposed to be there, but Keffels caught COVID and couldn't show. Keffels has been completely canceled from their own fucking community because of abuse and gaslighting, and leaks that have come out about their former sexual partners, accusing them of being psychologically and emotionally abusive and throwing people out on the street and making people homeless who depended on them, and just all sorts of weird shit. What I'm saying is, there's this weird mythos about transgender people that they are the most innocent and they are the most targeted ideology. Meanwhile, you have a mayor who is a dude. Okay, and again, if you're new to my channel and don't know what I mean by dude, it's a euphemism so that I can talk about another protected demographic that is not treated equally online with anybody else. And if you discuss them, especially now given the situation in Israel and Gaza, you will be heavily censored for talking about these people in the manner in which they are, in the manner in which they act, in the manner in which they affect the rest of the population of this country, the United States. So the Nashville mayor, who's one of these people, has had nothing to say on this subject other than Steven Crowder, for releasing the manifesto of a child mass murderer, is a vile, horrible person, while expressing nothing but sympathy for, again, the child mass killer. And at some point, and I don't want to go too much longer than 10 minutes on this subject, we have to ask ourselves, if child rapists and child murderers cannot be held accountable for the most vile and evil crime against the most innocent and vulnerable demographic of any kind, which is children, if they cannot be held accountable for the rape and mass murder of these people, and they instead are only seen through the lens of transgender, or only seen through the lens of black or socioeconomic or gay or whatever, if we cannot address the most fundamentally and undeniably evil problems in this country, the targeting of children for the most heinous crimes, and we instead just fillet and laud these people as victims and heroes, there is nowhere to go. There's nothing that's going to stop some very serious problems in this country, because my demographic, white males, and even though I'm not a Christian, I mostly identify with that kind of people with family values, people who care about the safeguarding of children, people who value community and righteousness and fairness. So I mean, even if I am, you know, an atheist, I most of my friends are Christian. Most of the people I identify with as my culture, my people, are Christian. If I were forced to choose a side between your average Redditor atheist who is probably out there right now lauding Audrey Hale as a victim and a martyr, rather than a child murderer who, if there is a hell, they're there. I guarantee you, if there is an eternal punishment for monstrous sin and evil, that Audrey Hale is in that punishment zone, because how could they not be? If I was forced to choose between in a unavoidable conflict, if I was forced to choose between those kind of people and the Christian conservatives of this country, however annoying or vexatious they might be, I will eat the cracker and I will drink the grape juice, and I'll be marching with them, not you. Because there are some things that people with any moral compass whatsoever, any view of right and wrong, will not be out there doing this for a child mass killer. They will not. People with absolutely any humanity will not be seeking to defend a demographic that does have a serious problem with child predation. It does have a serious problem with criminal activity. And does have a very serious problem with harming innocent people, including members of their own community. I mean, there's no cultural, political activist type group that is more cannibalistic than the transgender activist group. These people are, and this is the stuff I got struck off of YouTube a couple of years ago for saying these are some of the most vicious and vindictive political activists I've ever seen, and there is no one that they're more vicious to than their own people who swerve even a few degrees off of what I consider personally to be a cult. That if you look up the definition of what is a cult and the things they do to suppressive persons, I mean, if you've had any interest in Scientology over the years, or if you look back in time at the Manson family or any of this, and you see the behavior they show, the secretiveness, the sexual abuse, the lording of power over each other, and the violence that they show towards people who leave the group or contradict the leader of the group, it matches up perfectly. But I don't know if it's against YouTube TOS to call the transgender lobby a cult, so I'm taking a risk saying that it looks like a full 100% overlap in the Venn diagram to me. But one thing I will say is, regardless of the heckin' validness of the trans lobby, it is at the very least a strategic and tactical blunder to decide to go all in on defending the heckin' validness of a child mass murderer who with one of the big scary weapons they don't like, with a I believe it was an SKS, but functionally the same kind of weapon as an AR platform, a semi-automatic long rifle, went in there and just started shooting up children. If that is who you're going to expend your energy defending, there's something seriously wrong with you. Thanks for watching.